Asha. It's great to meet you.
Hey, nice to
Like
see you, Joey.
yeah, like everybody else. I mean, we've been watching you every once in a while. This thing comes out and it seems to go sort of viral, and you're doing you're spitting out these incredible pieces of work. And so I thought, I want to get to know this woman more. She seems really shy. Is that just me or is that you? Because
No,
poets are
I'm
usually
very
shy.
shy.
You're not.
I'm very shy. Always have been, and I'm an introvert. So yeah, I haven't done many interviews, and I don't think I'm that interesting. So we shall see how this goes.
So wait, I talked over you. You said you would consider yourself to not be shy or to be
To
shy.
be shy, yeah,
To be
definitely.
shy. So
Although a lot less than I was a few years ago. This movement has helped me bring me out a bit.
That's what I was going to ask you because I thought this woman seems kind of shy.
Mm.
Poets often are. And
Mm.
yet, you've done this. I know you've done some street theater and everything, but that's also street theater. I know is often it's on your terms. You're trying to control it because I've done a lot of street theater myself, and you're trying to control it, but things can get a little, different. But what's your background and stuff? How did you get involved in this whole fracas?
Well, the first time I really heard about it or that it was an issue was back in 2018 at London Pride that I hadn't been to for many, many, many years, but my friends begged me to go, so I decided to go. And that was the year Get the L Out did a protest.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I ever heard the word turf. I didn't know what the hell it meant. And then a couple of days later, I went home, I looked up the protest, found out who it was by, and I was a bit confused about why they would be thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
Or the message, which was with lesbians don't have penises. And then since then, I sort of fell down the hole. It was 2018 when I first heard about that, and then went to my first women's meeting probably the end of 2019, and then Women's Place UK in 2020. And that's really when I got started, I guess. I started networking with different women.
Mm-hmm. So you weren't involved in any kind of groups or political things or really anything?
Nothing at all. No, to be honest, I was quite naive. I thought women's rights was sort of done. Like there wasn't much left to do. We've not got equality, but we were well off. I thought obviously porn was an issue and prostitution and that kind of stuff, but I never in my wildest imaginations thought we'd be arguing about what a woman is. Crazy.
So it was the 2018 parade. What you said you hadn't been in a long time. What got you to even go that year?
Because my friend was in it, so I said I'd go and watch her and wave her on. So I did, and that was it.
How did you react
to it? Pardon?
How did you react to it then?
To the protest?
Well, I'm wondering, did you see it? Did you know that it was
happening? No, I didn't see it, but I heard about there was something going on at the start of the protest. And then later on that day, I was hanging out with a bunch of people, and they were talking about these bigoted TERFs that were protesting, and they're homophobes and they're racist and all this nonsense. And then, that's when I went home. But I didn't actually see them with my own eyes. But I heard.
How did you find out about it then?
From other people talking about it, about what was going on, and what the protest was. It was a bunch of TERFs and transphobes. They never once used the word lesbian or the name of the protest.
So how did you react to that once you heard this was happening? Did it start to send you down the rabbit hole, as you said? You started getting online, or were you just talking, or both, to other women? What happened? Online.
One of the first places I went was Angela C. Wild podcast about the cotton ceiling. And then I just started going through different feminist podcasts, like Megan Murphy was one that I found. I found Make More Noise, which is DJ Lippy. And that's how I went. Posey Parker, I found. In the Women's Place UK, so I went to that, and then that's where I started.
I was wondering if it affected you're seeing all this stuff, and I know because I'm a lyricist, and I look at, for me, when I write music, it's like lyrics and the music come together as the same thing. Things will come in my head, and I was wondering, because your stuff is very musical to me. I mean, everything. It's got the rhythm, it's got that. You start doing this, do you start thinking at that time about the poetry that you're about to get into?
No, to be honest, I hadn't written a poem in probably about 10, maybe 15 years. And then I woke up one day couple of months into peaking, and one just came out of me. And then that was when I started writing them again. And I hadn't really written spoken or beat poetry before now either. That's new. So I'm still discovering all that, which is cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just have like a regular job, right? You're just a working
Yeah.
person and you're doing your thing. You've been are you an out lesbian in the world?
Yeah.
Or is it just, it's just not online? It's just like, we're just seeing this woman online do this.
Yeah, everyone knows I am out as everywhere, online and in real life.
So what kinds of camaraderie have you had since this involvement and learning about this?
It's the best. I mean, I have more friends now than I ever thought I would in my life. And I have my partner, DJ Lippy, who I met at Women's Place UK. And just a massive group of friends. I go to Speaker's Corner quite regularly. And there's always at least 10 or 15 women there that are on a regular that I hang out with throughout the month as well. So that's one of the best things about this movement, networks of women. And I would suggest anyone that's looking to find some more friends get involved in this movement, because that is one of the side effects of it. Women.
And you have the advantage there. It's interesting because, again, you know, in the States, it's been very difficult for women to connect. I mean, we've got 3,000 miles between coasts, you know, and same like up and down as well. And it's a little bit harder, but
we're lucky here on Turf Island. It is easy to get from one end of the country to the other in a day. You can do it.
So this thing about finding this camaraderie and meeting these other women and everything, is there anything that's really surprised you in terms of when you get together with other women, or if you're planning something? Like, I know you've been involved in some street theater that's been very interesting. I think that it was probably, from what I understand, I think it was DJ Lippy's idea about the dinosaurs. Like, how did that come about?
That was because one of our Labour politicians, David Lammy, basically compared us, women fighting for our rights, he called us right hoarding dinosaurs. So she just said that it would be funny to follow him around as a dinosaur. So that's where that came from. We did a couple of protests with that, because that's a British kind of humor.
Just a little bit viral.
But that's our kind of humor over here. Just taking the piss out of it, owning it again.
So this has also cast you in a light because of so you're saying that this form of poetry also, and you doing this, what is almost like, I wonder if she's going to get into any beatboxing, you know, with this. Is that anything that makes you think about? Because I know that the style that you do, but have you thought about doing beatboxing with that?
I've not thought about beatboxing. I've tried to rap a bit better. I am still learning to rap a bit better. I don't think I have a good voice at all, but I think with rap I could maybe make it work. But I don't know about beatboxing.
You could get some background people, women that are doing that. I was wondering if there's any inspirations that you can go to. Tell me what's given you the kind of strength and whatever, and anger and all that passion that drives us to do anything publicly. What kind of other women have you been looking at, inspired by?
Well, I'd say, I don't know if I would say inspired, but she's given me probably the most confidence in this movement. It's
Who's
Kelly
that?
J.
Oh,
Kelly J. Keen. And I know she gets so much stick, but if it wasn't for her making me stand on the ladder, the first Speaker's Corner, I don't think I would ever have bothered doing anything else, because that was a massive personal achievement for me to get over my confidence. It really was. And no matter what anyone says about her, that will, always stand with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say her for sure. And all the women that go there, and all the women I've seen give their own speeches that are like, you can tell they're so nervous and shaking, but they do it anyway. And that gives me the confidence to do it if I can see them doing it.
Have there been any that have really stood out to you from Speaker's Corner, some of these women and their stories?
Yeah, loads, especially a couple of ones ago, maybe just after Christmas. Two women that I know personally, they were off camera, so I'm not going to tell their names, but they were talking about how this has affected their children and how they've seen their daughters just being pulled in by this ideology and completely change, and things like that absolutely break my heart. And those kind of things.
have you been affected in any way where you've been threatened or or warned about your life or anything like that since you've been involved in this? Like you better shut.
I've had a few online messages, just ranting nonsense, the like public ones and private ones, just saying all this crap. But I mean, I don't take them too seriously.
Have you lost friends?
I would say associates, but I wouldn't count them as friends. And this was way, way back at the beginning. I remember one guy telling me he was disappointed in me, and that just made me rage even more. Like, how dare you say you're disappointed in me for standing up for my rights? But I said these were associates. I don't really consider them friends.
I think it's an age. I think it's an age thing. I brought this up before, but and I think you've heard of Amy Ichikawa here in the United States. She's not that old, and she's saying that she didn't even know until really last year that she thought like you that woman is up for grabs. Like, what it even mean? I thought she said the same thing as you. I thought we were like done with that, which I just always, somebody in my 60s, I just have to laugh and go, it's never done, and it's never been.
I know. I realize that now. I really do. I really realize that now, and I think that's part of the problem with the younger generation. They think we're past done. They think women are the oppressors now.
Well, what got you there feeling so confident, do you think, that you didn't think about it anymore? Do you think it's just a generational thing?
Yeah, I guess. And growing up in the girl power generation, and we didn't really, it felt like all the fights that were there were done. Equal pay, even though we don't really have equal pay. Just all rights. It felt like it was already done, and it's so stupid now to think about it. I said, here we are fighting over the meaning of the word woman. Do we even exist?
Well, what do you think we can do from here out? Like, what do you see? Do you have projects in mind? How do we change all this stuff?
Personally, I think we need to do more public, do more things for the public, like protests and just getting them to realize what's going on. Because I think that's part of the reason. Although I do think this week has helped pique a lot of people in the UK with the sports stuff. I think that's great. But we just need to start telling people what's going on because they really don't know.
What happened with sports stuff? You're saying we're recording this in early April. So
with Leah Thomas in America. Also, we've got a British cyclist here. I can't remember his name, but he was due to cycle on the women's Olympic team, and he's just been banned from that. And that's been in the papers. And a lot of journalists have been asking our politicians, what is a woman? And our left side politicians can't answer that question. So it's been getting a lot of coverage in the paper. And the sports issue, people seem to understand that and are not afraid to talk about it. That is the biggest problem. People are afraid to speak about this. But the sports, it's so obvious you have to say something. So yeah, once people know it's more than just sports, it includes kids as well and everything, I think this will come crumbling down.
Do you have in your regular everyday life, do you have these moments of piquing people? Because I know a lot of people in their jobs, they try to do whatever they can, no matter what they're doing. I used to work in a movie theater, and I had to avoid certain trans activists that would come to the movie theater and ask about me. And every day I tried to pique somebody out on, whether I'm walking in the streets or it's at a store. I used to be a retail worker. I'll probably do retail again. Do you know people that are doing things like that, or you do it in your own life?
I try to peak every single day. I always go out with stickers or flyers and I put them up because I commute on my bike, so I can take a different route and sellotape them to lampposts and bus stops. I wear an adult woman, human, female cycling vest. At work, I haven't been out, but I've spoken to a couple of people about it and they're on my side. But on Friday, actually, when I walked into the work canteen, they were talking about Leah Thomas. So I obviously took part in that conversation and told them about all the other stuff. And that was at least 6 or 7 people. With regards to men in prisons, I'm just talking to people one-on-one about that. But there has been a Downview protest and I've forgotten the name of the other protest. Two prison protests in the last month, March, that were organised by someone else. won't say who, but
mhm,
they were quite successful, I think. Oh,
mhm,
and the one at the MOJ as well, Ministry of Defences, that one as well.
mhm,
And
mhm,
they're keep prisons single sex and no
mhm,
males in female jails.
mhm. Yeah, because the rate that I see of women just being killed in the UK is really high. And I think that that's a huge factor in that is the geography, again, much smaller than the States, so that if a woman tries to get away from her abuser, he
Oh,
can
that's a
usually
lot
track
easier
her
to
down
find.
and find her much more easily than, a woman in the United States. If they can get away 2,000 miles, they're still, on landmass. What artistically, because you know that you are being seen stripped down to an artist. That's what people see you as, an artist, a poet. You're doing this stuff. They make all kinds of assumptions about who you must be or whatever. Like I made the assumption it seemed like she's probably shy. She seems very, you know, not totally into this, but when you're doing your thing, you're really in control of that. I wondered if you've had any feedback or anything about perceptions of you that have been amusing or completely off base or, anything about that when you meet
Uh,
people.
one, yeah, one of the first things that the poems I did, I had someone say that was probably from a prep school. I was like, what?
Prep school?
Oh, yeah, like a private school where they, I don't know how they do. They would make you a lady and teach you how to do all these sophisticated things. I'm like, are you serious? No way.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, I know. And what the other stuff? Obviously I'm racist, right wing, a homophobe, uh, or the usual middle class, all these usual nonsense stuff. And if I'm not like a self-hating black woman, that's another one they say, and I'm just doing what the right white people will tell me to do, and that you're gonna turn against me, and that believing in two sexes is white fundamentalism, basically, is what they
Mm-hmm.
say, and this is crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But none of it works for me because I'm too old for that like kind of emotional blackmail. It's just it's stupid, and they're the ones that are the most racist anyway. Some of the things they come out with, where
Mm-hmm.
if black women are women, then men can be women. I'm like, do you not see yourselves?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we know that the biggest narrative that comes right out of the BLM, the Black Lives Matter thing, is the most oppressed, now in the world. And
How
it
men
was an
say they're women.
easy, yeah, it was a good narrative for them to come up with this thing, but they are Black men who are saying that they're trans or women or whatever,
Yeah.
that's most oppressed. That's the most oppressed. And it got a bunch of the left here because they see it, as a minority within. It's just like talking to Michelle, in Australia. They see it as a minority within a minority that has
Mhm.
been so ignored, and then they feel guilty, like, oh my God, I haven't seen this before. And all it's like the Catholics with the, beating their backs or something. That's what this
It's
whole
exactly
thing
like
is.
that.
Yeah, like it's our fault. It's this thing of that. What do you think's going to happen, Aja, when you look at the rest of the year? I mean, and do you have any projects that you think of doing?
Yeah, there's a few places opening this year that I would like to take some street art, performance art too, and sort of pass a message. But I can't say what they are because it's supposed to be a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel I say this every summer or spring, maybe it's the spring, but I feel like people are peaking, and I think by the end of the year we're gonna, in the UK anyway, maybe have pulled back some of this madness. I think
Well,
we've got local elections coming up, and I
mm-hmm.
think Labour are really going to feel women's anger
Mm-hmm.
this time because they've just totally betrayed us at the moment. But I think that the only option is to vote Tory, but I don't want to do that. I'm not a right wing person, but all the left wing parties have completely abandoned us. They won't even say what a woman is. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't know. I guess I have to spoil my ballot, but I think they're going to feel a message. Labour, that is.
So would you say you're politically homeless like a lot of us are?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Even the Women's Equality Party has men in it. It's like, what's this to do?
What is the name of the organization? What were you saying?
Women's Equality Party.
Oh, Women's Equality Party.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have
They-
anything like that.
But they include men, so what's the point of them? There's nowhere. I have no party to vote for, and yeah, I can't vote for our right wing equivalent.
Do you have any young women in your life? I mean, girls and yet much younger, like teens that are either you maybe mentor or look up to you or related to, that you talk with about this stuff? Because talking about generational, you obviously came up thinking everything's okay, women, blah, blah, blah. What about the young girls in our lives?
I don't have any young girls personally in my life, but I have friends that have daughters that are in their teenagers, and I try to tell them what's going on, but not just the gender stuff, but the porn stuff, especially, because
Yep.
that is really, it's just gone insane when I was a kid. And I think that does a lot more damage. And things like TikTok, like, I know I'm sounding like an old prude now, but you should not let your children on there. It's the things that are on there are awful. Even Twitter, like, you're 2 clicks away from full sex and all sorts of horrible stuff. So don't let your children on those sites. And if you do, keep an eye on what they're saying.
Well, it's addictive, and it changes it rewires our brains. It doesn't matter what age you are, but I don't think you're sounding like somebody who's out of touch at all. The thing is that what I was going to ask you, and this is related to generational also, and there's just experience. How old were you when you had a device in your hand?
Oh God, late teens, I say, at least.
Interesting. So you weren't an 8-year-old having access to YouTube.
No,
to start
none of
going
that.
and possibly seeing porn or porn influencers or anything like that.
No, even like having like a computer, PlayStation, I was quite old because we were poor, so we never had none of that. I remember when mobiles come out, but I was in my late teens before I had one. I think I'm a lot older than people think I am as well, so that helps.
Well,
but yeah, I didn't grow up with that, and I'm so glad I didn't grow up with the internet. So glad of what it would have done to me, and just the stupid stuff that kids put up there, the stupid stuff that adults put up there that stays there forever. But especially when you're a child, you don't think about that, but it will come back to haunt you.
Do people recognize you out in public? Do you have women that will recognize you and then they're really happy, and you see, oh, that's another TERF, or
Yeah, I've met a couple of TERFs actually, just randomly walking around, and they're like, oh, I know you. I'm like, yay! It's cool. It's good.
Hang on a second.
It's fun, getting more friends.
Well, you've been really generous in that. I was asking you about that first piece that kind of went viral. I was wondering if you'd be willing to spit that out for my audience.
I will. Excuse me if I get a bit wrong, but I will do my best. Okay. It was it's called You Ate Me. And it goes, who told you you could redefine the line between your sex and mine? Who told you I had no Who told you you could redefine the line between your sex and mine? Who told you you could get in my face and tell me I have no space? I'm from the streets. We don't play nice. We tell you to straight when you ain't right. I ain't got time for this beef about biology. I got to worry about me and my family, how we're going to eat. Bruv, you ain't like me. You come from the world above. But don't get me wrong. I will show you love if you know your place. And your place is far, far from my single sex space. You say you're a woman because your feelings say so. Well, guess what? Your cock and balls, they show every time we say no. And you rage and complain and try and switch up the game to make us feel shame. Well, that won't work with me because I ain't got some time for some man's fuckery. So come, let's go. I won't let this go. We'll go toe to toe, or we'll take it to the streets with my sisters and me, and you will see how strong we can be in this face of tyranny that says a man is like we. You think I'm afraid of you? You must be mad. You don't know the kind of life I've had. Growing up as a girl, trying to dodge the hand of a dirty man as he reaches for me. Flip forward 20 years now, what do I see? That same dirty man saying he's the same as me. No fucking way. I will not let that stand. I am a woman and you are a scam. And I don't give a fuck if I come across rude. Let me list the things I won't do. I will not be silenced by your male pattern violence. I will not give up my rights just so I appear nice. I will not call a man she. I definitely will not be taking that knee. Now let me go before I get too deep and start cracking jokes about your size 14 feet and your big old hands and the hair on your cheek that says you're a man. Oh, did I hurt your feelings by telling the truth? Well, guess what, bruv? From this position, I will not move. Okay, Sorry, that was a bit of a shit recital, but I've not said it out in a while.
Oh, that's it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I was quite angry when I wrote that.
Was there one particular thing that shook you onto that edge to write that, or was it just you feel like a culmination of things?
Yeah, it was just a combination of things. I think I went to sleep one night with just the who told you, just yeah, who the hell are you to tell me what a woman is? And then I woke up the next day and wrote it, I guess.
And other pieces that you've written. See, it's funny because you just whipped out that piece, you reciting that. When you did it, it was a lot more with the beats in it, right? And that's, like I said, the music and the lyrics come together for me. These other pieces that you've written, is there a pattern to it? Like, if you said you were going to sleep one night or something and you had a line in your head, do you have like one line, or do you have a theme about something? How does that work for you artistically?
It is normally me going to bed, and then as soon as I put my head on the pillow, I'll get this one line just repeating from my head. And like, if I don't write that down now, I'm going to lose it. So I'll write that down, and then I'll look at it in the morning, and then the rest of the poem will come out. But I know if I don't write that line down and I just try to remember it in my head, by the next day it's completely gone. But maybe that's meant to be sometimes. It's not all poems can be.
Has anybody asked you to come to any women's events and wanted to platform you and have you do your thing?
I was going to do one at the lesbian march last year, but that got cancelled. But just that one, yeah.
Interesting. Where do you see yourself this summer or the fall? I know you can't mention some projects you said. I understand that, but
yeah, that's it, I guess. Hopefully just doing more projects, waking more women up, getting involved in maybe a bit more organization, getting women together in groups, because they seem to be, especially in London, there's a lot of big groups. So I think more local working class groups is what's needed a bit more.
In general, you mean in London, because you brought that up?
In general, but London specifically, because that's where I am.
For anybody who's never been to London or outside of it, we're looking at a city where you are, right? That you can be on a train within 2 hours, you can be somewhere else that might seem very, very far away. But I know that people don't just jump in a car and drive for 2 hours in a day and then come back usually, right?
No, not normally.
And
but when there's Speakers Corners events, women come from all the way from Scotland even. That's how powerful it is to get women together.
I've been trying to understand this because I am somebody who just get in a car, drive for an hour. I'm at the ocean. That's what clears my head. But I mean, throughout the years, throughout my life, I've always had that access to be able to get in a car and go somewhere, even to just, whatever. But everybody I've spoken to in London says, oh yeah, we just don't do that. What's the deal with that? Is it about not having, a lot of people don't have cars, they don't have places to park cars, it's too expensive? What's this deal?
For me personally, because I'm a Londoner born and raised, I've never learned how to drive, to my shame, because there's no point having a car in London. For me, it's too expensive. There's nowhere to park. You can get everywhere by bus or train, so that's why I've never learned to drive. But I guess it's the same. If you live in London, you really don't need a car. And if you have a car, it's a luxury because it's so expensive here.
So what about jumping on a train? What about jumping on a train for the day to go?
You can do that, but then again, that can cost you more than going over to Europe on an airplane. So
wow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It can be like 200, 300 quid to get up to Scotland. You can go to Spain for like 50 quid. Or you could anyway.
Okay, well, that's a good perspective. Something off camera you and I were talking about earlier was the attacks that we've seen, and I know I've seen out of France, right? Does that give you any pause or make you rethink things about how to do these gatherings or anywhere that you're going to be publicly?
Until very recently, I've obviously seen what's happened in France and America, even though it's not that I've seen that's been too crazy. Obviously you have different gun laws, so the potential is always there, but I've never felt too much in danger in the UK until the two events in Manchester. The one where there was a speaker's corner where Bell Steffi got milkshake thrown at her.
Mm.
And the Women's Place UK meeting the other day where there was 200 protesters. I mean, it's starting to get really, really out of hand. And I do think this summer there could be some violence from them because they're not getting stopped. The police aren't doing anything about it. So it's just going to get worse until a woman gets hurt or killed, I think.
So,
Especially when they're happening in France.
Yeah. I was involved in the 70s with what was called Take Back the Night. And we started these things all over the country. And of course, back then there wasn't the internet. It was phone calls, which were expensive. If you called, you'd call out of the city, it could cost you money. But writing letters and organizing stuff, I think it's one of those things that really I know for me, it was very helpful because it forced you to also work with people. Even if you didn't like somebody, you had a goal, you had a thing to do. That was the job. I've been wanting to ask you what kind of a little kid you were, what kind of a little girl you were. Were you a tomboy? Were you you little, anything about your past that informs you who you are today?
Yeah, I was a really shy, really awkward little tomboy. People used to think I was a boy all the time because I like to do boy things and I wore boys' clothes. But back when I was a kid, that wasn't really a thing. They were just clothes. But yeah, I was mostly just shy and awkward.
And what is this about? You said boy things, so give me some boy things.
Yeah, okay. So I played loads of sports. That was one of the biggest things in my life that helped me sort of get through school, being a really shy, awkward kid, and I got bullied a lot at school. But sports helped me out of that, and I did swimming, basketball, and track and field. So quite boyish sports, I guess. And I just I don't know. My favorite cartoon as a kid was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and things like that, and Biker Mice for Mars, boys things, but they weren't boys things in my family. There was no sort of.
I was just going to ask you that. Are you saying that because of the way that gender has come up as a subject now?
Yeah, there was none of that in my family. I mean, I have 3 sisters and a brother. I'm the youngest, and there was no gender roles in my family. My parents were both fine with the way I was. Never tried to change me, thank God, because I was weird and awkward and shy enough without having to deal with my parents trying to change me.
Do you think if the internet had been around and you had a device in your hand and you started getting influenced by Tumblr or whatever, and you thought maybe you were supposed to be a boy, do you think that would have come up?
I think so. I never once thought I was a boy when I was a kid. Like I said, loads of people used to think I was, and I understood why they thought that, because I was dressed like one and was running around climbing trees and playing on my bike. So I understood that as a child, but I wasn't living in the world where it was just 1 or 2 adults. Mm-hmm. But now everyone's telling children that they're in the wrong body if they like those things. So I think I definitely would have gone down that hole.
Do you think
my parents would have had none of it? No, they would not have had any of it. No way. None of my family would have had any of that.
Why do you think?
They just weren't into it. And my mum was an older mum. And so she said she'd already had 4 kids by the time I was born. I'm younger by 9 years. So she was quite experienced in what stages kids go through, what kids like. She would never have allowed that. She just wouldn't have. And my dad wouldn't either. My dad's super macho, masculine man, but he has no problem with me being a tomboy and being independent and just doing whatever I want, being into girls. And he wouldn't have allowed me to change into a boy. He was very happy with me being a girl and having all those traits. I was his little girl. He was, yeah.
That's awesome. When did you come out?
I never really wasn't out. If you had gone into my bedroom as a teenage girl, you would have seen posters of Pink and Christina Aguilera, and it was pretty obvious. I never really had to come out. Mm-hmm. I introduced my mom passed away, but my sister finished raising me, so I introduced my sister into my girlfriends and stuff. I never had to be I'm into girls. It's just
same here. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Never felt the need to.
Yeah, somebody had asked me about when did you come out, and I was like, well, I know that I verbalized it when I was 16 years old, but same thing. You came in my room. Here's a generational thing.
Yeah,
I had Sophia Loren poster, big black and white, I don't know if you're familiar with that image of her coming out of it was from the film Two Women. She's
Mm.
coming out of the water and she's got this dress on and it's completely soaked, her hair and everything. She came out. And I remembered my mom coming in my room because I could put things like that on the wall. And I remember my mom coming to my room almost like yesterday and her looking at, and I mean, when I say a poster, I mean, it was like, you know, when you take the insert of a magazine and you open it,
Yeah, I had loads
it's
of
not that
those.
big. And I had several like that, but Sophia Loren was right there. And I remember my mom looking at that and her face just kind of like, oh my God. And I was scared, but it was like, we were close. But yeah, it was one of those things. It's pretty weird. But my sister used the word lesbian and she called me a lesbian at the dinner table when I was 10. She was always trying to fight with me. And I was mortified. I didn't know what it was, but it was bad. It was like,
yeah, see, that's the thing. When I was a kid, I knew what gay was, two men together, but I didn't know what lesbian was when I was very young, which is, I find quite weird.
Even with that, in terms of how we look at misogyny and patriarchy, is that what a lot of straight people don't realize is that anybody that's homosexual, it's usually men. We think of men first, and that's kind of like the most verboten thing is two men being together, right? So there's that. But I'm glad to hear you clarify this thing about the gendered things because, you know, I'm not a gender abolitionist. It's one of those things that I think I've said that before, but I'm not. I understand now. I like playing with gender. I like it. It's you know, it's something to goof around with. It's just part of performance maybe and different ways to display things. And which leads me to this thing of your work. And it sounds like you're almost like an accidental artist in a way. You know, you found your voice and now you're doing some stuff. Do you write music?
I don't, although I did write a poem the other day that I think would go very well to music. So I'm going to try. And I don't know if you know a woman called Jen Critical. She did This Witch Won't Burn song and Born Not Warned. She's done a couple of turfy songs. She's a good friend with me. So I'm going to see if I can collaborate with her.
Oh, that sounds great.
It would be a bit better with music. Why not? Give it a go.
Really? Why not? Well, it's been lovely talking to you. I know I've talked to Lippy before. I love the work that you guys are all up to and what you're into because I'm totally about street theater as well. I mean, there's every form of activism that's going to pique people, right?
It does. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you wish you could meet at this point that you would like to have a conversation with, and that inspires you? I don't care who that is, dead or alive. How about one of those? That's those questions.
I would have loved to have met Magdalene Burns. She had already passed away by the time I'd peaked, but yeah, her, I think definitely. She seems so real, just so real. I appreciate that. And yeah, her videos really helped me when I was falling down the rabbit hole that first year. Just get cut through all the nonsense and just straight speaking is what I appreciate. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. End of story.
And it's time to be what other people say rude. That's what I always, it's like, I don't care.
Can we get over it's not rude to call a man a man. I'm so fed up with that, like policing and changing our language, male-bodied, born with male, with a penis, blah, blah, blah. They're men. It's not rude to say that.
Do you find yourself changing your language when you're either writing or just in your head or whatever before you speak? Are you doing any kind of different filtering? Because I have in the past year.
I used to in the beginning, because I guess it sort of did get into my head that maybe calling them men was rude, but I'm fed up with it now. I mean, I never use the pronouns just because I can't be bothered with that. And it's confusing. If I can see you look like a man, I'm not going to make my brain do this weird thing where it says you're she, and it's just, I can feel my brain going like, so I'm not going to do it. And I used to use trans women online, but now I try to say men who say they're women. Yeah, because that's what it is really.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that we have in general in this sort of, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this. I'm not the only one saying pro-reality. I've been trying to figure out here in the States, particularly, I've moved away from this gender critical because I think it just doesn't, it's really not for me. A lot of these people that say that they're this or whatever, and looking more away from, getting away from the elite that has pressured us around this whole thing. What do you think is the biggest challenge? Maybe there, I don't know if it's just in the UK or whatever, to get more people awake.
I guess letting them know that there is a problem and that they're allowed to talk about it, basically, because they're so terrified of being called transphobes or homophobes, because the T's have attached themselves to the rest of us, and that's what they're scared about. Which is why I think the sports is a good way to teach people, because you can see it's so unfair, and it's not about feelings, and none of this should be about feelings anyway, but definitely in sports. But yeah, it's just giving people permission to speak.
Asha, it's been fantastic talking to you. Good luck, and maybe I'll be seeing you in the next few months.
Definitely.